Welcome to What's Going On, a Columbia Access Television production. I'm your host, Bishop Lorenzo Lawson, the host that loved you the most. What's Going On is a show that's designed especially for you, to let you know and keep you informed about what's going on here in Columbia and the surrounding areas. Also, What's Going On is designed to invite you to be a part of this show. And you can do that three ways. Number one, first and foremost, you can be a live studio audience member where you can ask questions in person and get your questions aired right while the show is going on. The other two methods that you can get involved is through Twitter and email. And that information on how you can participate will be up on your screen. And my director, Ms. Jennifer Erickson, will be taking your questions. And if you will tweet her your question or email it, then we will be able to answer it while we are on air. So this is why we are here, is to let you know what's going on. My guest today is Mr. James Smitty Smith. Like myself, Mr. Smith is a native of Columbia, and we just want to welcome you. Welcome, James.
Thank you.
Mr. Smith is, as I said, is a native of Columbia. He's a former high school dropout, which I'm emphasizing that because I was a former high school dropout, and we are going to touch on that in a little bit. But since that time, Mr. Smith have got his BS degree in business administration from the University of Missouri. He's a musician, and that music that you heard in the intro is music that Mr. Smith and his band, the Chump Chain Band, created and have allowed us to use it as our intro. Mr. Smith is also presently an instructor for the adult education program at the Career Center right here in Columbia, Missouri. And he always bless me when I see him. So right now, I just want to open up, James, with this quote that I found online. And it was, I found it at this online research magazine called VOC. It says the name of this particular research newsletter is entitled The Impact of Education on Crime, Health, and Mortality in Civil Participation. And it was written by Lance Lochner. He's a professor of economics at the University of at the University of Western Ontario. And it says, this is quoted, "A growing body of evidence I surveyed and discussed suggests that education can reduce crime, along with many other social benefits. The implied social benefits from these impact can be very, very significant. Around the world, and especially in the United States, incarceration rate and conviction rates are high among the least educated. A number of recent studies indicated that this correlation reflects a causal relationship. For example, in a study conducted by Lochner and Moretti in 2004, estimate that by increasing high school graduation rate by 1% in 1990 would have resulted in nearly 100,000 fewer crimes in the United States. And that would translate into a social benefit valued at more than $2 billion. 1 percentage point of graduation rate. And notably, our estimates suggest that the increase of education will reduce violent and property crime. I wanted to start that off with this because as I introduced you and I said that both of us was high school dropout, and with that in mind, I invited you on the show because you actually went back, got your education, and now you are teaching in the adult education. And I wanted to know what made you to pursue that particular path, career path, to educate adults that dropped out like you and I did.
On the real, I never pursued it. I got a business degree, and when I got out of college, I interviewed for a few jobs. By the time I graduated, I didn't go to college till I was 38 years old. And I graduated at 42, and I interviewed for a couple of jobs, and maybe 3 or 4, and they was gung-ho until they seen my age. And so I never really got hard for a position, so I went on the road with the band. Me and Babe talked it over, and we started a marketing program. We put out a CD, and we started passing around to all the international blues magazines that were interviewing and critiquing indie releases, and we got a couple of good bites for a couple of them, so we put some advertising in there. And then we went to the Mid-America Arts Conference in the 90s and got some good gigs. And so we started doing about a 7 or 8 state area. But of course, actually the touring season only lasts from Memorial Day to Labor Day. And then everything slows down, with the band business. And I applied for a substitute teaching job in 2001 because business was slow in January. And I started substitute teaching for the public school, and I fell in love with teaching. I fell in love with seeing people that were like I was in school, because I was a knucklehead, you know what I mean? And I would work a lot of special ed classes because very few people like to work them. And that's what got me interested in teaching. And just being there for the students and remembering how when we were at Douglas High School and how teachers taught, and our culture was included in the teaching process, which I thought was a wonderful thing. I missed that when we went to integrated school, but the teachers was from your neighborhood, they knew you, you knew them, and so you felt like that those teachers cared about you. So that's what I brought into a substitute teaching classroom with me. I cared about them, and matter of fact, I wouldn't let them call me Mr. Smith. I said, that's why I started using brother. He said, what's your name? I said, I'm Brother Smith. They said, why they call you brother? I said, because I'm the soul brother, and instead of shaking their hand, I would, do the dab with them because I was trying to, create some camaraderie and let them know that I've been where you've been. And I didn't know I was going to love it until I got involved with substitute teaching.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. What made you go back and get your education? Well, let me preface this. I read in your bio, and you put it in there specifically, that you was making a whole lot of bad choices when you dropped out of school. You was going down the wrong road and was really drifting from this to that. And I imagine that your music kind of kept you. And we're gonna probably have a show about that too, how music and musicians, how that can help you not go down that wrong path also. But we're speaking about education and the article on how this different studies have shown that there's a correlation between the higher the education, the less the crime rate, and the lower the education, as I read off, the higher the crime rate. Did you see that in your particular case?
Well, I got my GED when I was like, 19, 20, 21 years old when I was living in Des Moines, Iowa. And actually, it all ties up to employment. I was looking for a job while I was living there, and I couldn't find a job. And they told me about a program where you could go get GED and make $50 a week, kind of like Youth Build program over here in Columbia now, which I think is a great program because they pay you a salary to teach you a trade, and they work on their GED. And I got my GED, and I came home, and I was planning on doing a bunch of things, but I drifted right back into my old lifestyle when I come back home. And I drifted probably for a couple of years with no direction. And when you don't have any sense of direction, then you get involved with whatever's going on. You know, whatever looks hip, whatever looks fast, whatever looks cool, you kind of get involved in. I got involved in some stuff like that. But the band still hated me because Babe was always trying to put together a band. And Babe put me aside, taught me how to play bass. And then we had ghetto band back in those days. And he started teaching me how to play. And then we started teaching me how to do the business end of the things. And we got involved. So that kept me out of a lot of mixes. But
it was still education.
Yes, it's all education.
Learning.
You're learning. You're learning a trade. So education
Yes.
doesn't mean you have to go to school. As long as you have a mentor that wants to teach you a trade or something. And Babe first started me how to play bass when I was about 15, and I'm still learning from him yet today. And that has took me some places that I never would have got to go. You know what I mean? And that was really great. But then I got a job in Fulton when I was like 24 years old at the brick plant over there, making great money. And that put me out of the streets because I was driving back and forth to work every day. I was making about $99 a day, and as you know, in the 70s, that was great money. I got that job probably 75, 76. And I worked that job until I was 31 years old. And we were United Steel Union members. And what happened was when the steel mills went down in the 80s, we was the next to go. So I found myself going from $20,000 something a year to unemployment like a lot of people are going through now. And so I got back into playing music. At one point I was playing with about 3 different bands. I finally went on the road with this band out of Kansas City in the late 80s. And I thought, well, here's my chance to make some real money. And little did I know what the real road was like. We went through 5 states in 2 months. And the only time I seen the good side of the city was on the way in and on the way out. I didn't make enough money to send back home or nothing else. And so really, I came off the road and I said, I have to do something better. I picked up a little few jobs that were seasonal, nothing that ever lasts, dead-end jobs, you know what I mean. And so I met with Clarence Wine, who was always a friend of mine. He came out and listened to music, and he was the academic advisor at MU Business School. I said, Clarence, I'm thinking about going to college. He said, come talk to me. I'll show you how to do that. And he was the one who showed me how to do college.
Okay.
And so I found myself January '89 enrolled at the University of Missouri.
You know, everything that I'm hearing is what, in which you and I, we talked about it, and we both know that, yes, education is a great component to helping reduce crime rate. But actually, it's just a byproduct of what you kept saying. I wanted, make money, jobs, career.
Yes.
And that is the true indicator of how to reduce. And that's one of my bandwagon is it's jobs. It's jobs. If you cannot make a decent living, as you said, one thing that you had in your advantage, and I'm going to ask you about this, is that whenever those jobs kind of winged out, you had something to fall back on, which you learned how to do to make money, which was the band. But it was still primarily for the purpose of making money.
My dad taught me, even if you have a job, you always have a small business on the side. All the time I was growing up, my dad worked for a company, but he always had a janitorial business on the side, And so you understand that when you put all your eggs in one basket and that basket goes down, that's what a lot of people are saying now when you have these massive layoffs like we do every few years, then there's your job gone. If you don't have nothing to fall back on, you're struggling, and when you're struggling, if you're not making money, you're spending money and you wipe out your savings. That's what happened to me when I got laid off. And I had to get back into something. And so that was a good entry level to go back into the music. But then when I went to college, and when I came out of college, my emphasis was in marketing in business school. So I had learned a few things about marketing this music thing. And now I'm really proud of some of the young guys. One of the names, Tony Tucker, not Tony Tucker, Larry Tucker, who has Stovetop Production, and how he has taken that music thing and opened up a production company. And there's a few other people in town that's done that and turned it into a legitimate business. And I like that too, that aspect of it, because they're also educating themselves and learning. They're doing things, and Tyree the same way. They learn to do things and doing this business of music over the internet and giving themselves some residual income that's coming in regular. So that's still education.
And
And it's
it's
still
still
about,
tied to income.
yes.
That's the key. Now, I want to get to the point I really invited you here for is to ask you about what are you seeing for as being an instructor in adult education? Have you seen the example of how just educating these adults is turning their lives around? Can you speak on that? Do you actually see it?
What I see is they come to adult education class because they self-motivated to come. And they come because they know that to get their high school diplomas, which we do in adult education, we prepare them to go take it. Used to be the GED test, now they're doing the HiSET, which is the high school equivalency test. It's just a different company. It still gives you a high school diploma. And they see that as the first step toward retooling and re-educating themselves. It's not the final step. Because I have all my students write an essay when they come to the class and tell me what's your short-term education goal, what's your short-term job goal, what's your long-term education goal, and what is your career goal. And they always have another step they want to go to, 9 out of 10. Like I've got probably 5 students in my class now that they come to get their high school equivalency test or certificate because they plan on going to nursing school. So they're looking at where do I go from here. So this is just the first step for a lot of them. We were talking about one of the students that we know in common earlier, and he came in and got his, and he's already just finished. He graduated, got his diploma from high school probably right before Christmas, and he already just finished his first year at Mobley Community College, his first semester. And so he's building on that career move. So this is just the first step for a lot of the students that come to see us.
Okay. And speaking of him, I'm not going to mention his name or anything, but this young man here, he was involved in drugs, selling drugs and doing in the street life. He got shot, almost got killed, and then he turned his life around. And one of the ways that he's turning his life around is by educating himself. And he's really, and what I have seen with my youngsters, because I'm the director of the Youth Empowerment Zone, and one of the components of my organization, one of our emphasis is education, because we believe that education is one of the main vehicles out of poverty. So we stress that, and what I have seen was the first thing we do is then get them back engaged with education is what we see is their self-esteem seems to shoot up because they usually come in with a low self-esteem thinking that they're unintelligent, and that they can't do the work because maybe they started off behind and never did catch up or whatever the reason may be, and then they dropped out. But we see their self-esteem begin to pick up when they begin to see that, oh, I can think, oh, I can reason this out, I can work this problem through. And then from there, it opens them up to a whole lot of different things. Have you noticed that with the adults?
I see that the students come in, and the first thing I do is we give them the TABE test, and they come in and do a set of tests in order to get in the program. And so we test them in reading, language, which is writing, and math. And the test results will come out and show them what levels they are in each of those areas. And then I give them some of my own tests out of the booklets to say, okay, let me see how far you are and what level they say you in. And then I start them out practicing math problems at whatever. I start them out wherever they're at. You have to reach them where they're at and have them build and just have them practice. Some of them are resistant to doing a lot of practice at first, but when they say, man, I'm getting this. I had a student tell me the other day, said, man, I never did this before, because usually if they go through the public school system, they put a calculator in their hand First thing they do. So I say, well, no, because I want you to learn your timetable. So we're gonna do long division. We're gonna do multiplication. We're gonna add and subtract. We're gonna borrow, and we're gonna do all of this without a calculator, which is unheard of in a lot of places today. And they get this pride that comes up in them when they go from one stage to the other. First they were having trouble with subtracting or rounding and then they're doing fractions and they're doing all this stuff and they're learning their timetables and you see this pride that comes up in them and say, man, and other people see it too, and so they encourage one another.
Yes.
They even sit down and help one another when they get stuck, you know.
Well, it is. I'm quite sure that what you're doing is just awesome. Because I done had some testimony from some different people, and I'm looking forward to continue and even do more for as working with you in this education. I just started a program. It's called Boarding School, and I'm partnering with the Columbia Public School System and the Boone County Jail, that if any of these young person that they was enrolled in public school and they get arrested for whatever reason, that they will allow me to continue to take their lessons to them in the county jail and keep them engaged with just learning. What a better place to get them to focus is the county jail. They don't have nothing but time, and they are. But the main thing is, I don't want them to get that disconnect and come out and no longer interested in even going to school because they done fell so far behind and lost it. This is just one of the projects that I'm doing, and I'm translating it on into the prison system.
Okay.
That if one of my youth or I'm connected with, and they say, for instance, they go there and they get their GED or that equivalence, that high school equivalence. Then if they want to further their education, they can get in touch with me, and I will find supporters, maybe a church or something, that will support them by paying for a corresponding college course for them.
Okay.
So that they can further their education. And the reason why I'm doing this is because myself, when I was a high school dropout, and like you said, couldn't get no jobs because you drop out, and so I started doing criminal activities to try to earn money until I did get incarcerated. And then that's when I decided that I didn't want to do this no more, but how would I change it around? Again, it still boils down to income. How are you going to earn a living? How are you going to pay your bills? How are you going to eat? So a mentor came into my life, and like you, encouraged me to get my education and go ahead and pursue a higher education, because with that opened up doors of opportunity, is the way he explained it to me. And it made sense. So that's when I began to pursue my higher education and still pursuing it. I'm currently in the master class.
Amen. Amen.
And trying to get my MBA. Well, James, thanks for coming. We are closing out the show. You have been viewing what's going on. Again, I'm your host, that love you the most, Bishop Lorenzo Lawson. We will invite you to look at this. It will be rebroadcast Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 8:30 in the morning on Columbia Access Television, and Tuesday and Thursday at 6:30. No, at 6. I keep getting that mixed up. But you just go on the Columbia Access Television website and you'll get the schedule. We thank you for tuning in, and be sure to tune in next month, same time, same place, the first Tuesday at 5 o'clock. We enjoy you, we love you, and there's nothing you can do about it. Thank you.